Hello, everyone, and welcome into another edition of To The Point podcast. Boys doing well on this Thursday. Lots of great content in the hockey world. We saw our Canadian women win this morning, which was great. Left me with very few hours of sleep, but I did enjoy seeing one hockey team win a gold medal. Great content for the Olympics. Hockey's in full bloom, but there was a Super Bowl this past weekend. We're not fully moved past it yet here on the podcast because I had to get my guest today's thoughts on the game, and we had to talk about a certain player who earned a ring as well. But back on the podcast, great friend of the show, great friend of mine, great friend of yours, Casey Ward. Casey, how are things, my friend?
Thanks, Jug. Doing good. We're all fine and dandy, kind of a little bit into that post-football depression like you were saying on Monday, but we're getting by. Lots of hockey on the docket and golf coming, so we're surviving.
Yeah, really, it's thank God for golf. I last Saturday I forgot that there's no football or anything because I just watched the Waste Management for like 6 hours, which might sound sad to some people, but I enjoyed my day. But the Super Bowl, you mentioned it, football's over. Rams win the Super Bowl, get by the Cincinnati Bengals. What'd you make of the game, halftime show? What were your overall thoughts on the product?
I thought it was a pretty good game. I was rooting for the Bengals. I was against OBJ all game. I thought it was awesome. Just some of the offensive plays from Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford with the no-look passes. That was just pretty awesome. The defense from the Rams in the second half really, I think, won them the ball game. Joe Burrow kind of struggled. I think he's got an injury there now. He's reported kind of tweaked something. So, I don't know. It was a good game to watch. I hated watching OBJ score the first touchdown of the game. That was like the killer, but I feel bad for him that he went down with his ACL. So hope he can heal up.
Yeah, that was, I think if he kept playing, he would have been the Super Bowl MVP. And such a freak injury, those ACLs, second ACL tear on that knee in 16 months, which I really don't know if he's going to play again. That's where I think he could really, maybe you just won a Super Bowl, go out on top. I think he could get a media job really easily. And I think he's charismatic. He's got good style. And he's also got 16 million followers on Instagram, almost 5 million more than Tom Brady, just to put it into context. I think the mothership or Fox would love to scoop up OBJ as a in-studio analyst for next season.
Yeah, I think, well, it's tough, right? Because OBJ, he'll say he wants to come back and he'll try and find money on the free agent market because, he wants to get his own and whatever. But I think there's no doubt, like, even if he does decide to walk away from the game, he can go whatever route. Like, I think of Drew Brees, he's on TV now. Guys like Paul Bissonnette, he's on TNT, does Spit and Chicklets, all that good stuff. Like, there's so many different avenues after the game. So there's especially a guy like him, he's got such a wide following. So
interested to see what comes with him. What do you think of the halftime show?
It was pretty good. I was a big fan. I watched the game with Hill and her parents, and it was pretty good. I thought they were a good show. I thought I kind of was thinking about Eminem's kneeling there. I didn't know if it was like a Colin Kaepernick thing at the start, and I wasn't sure. People were saying it was for Tupac. I didn't know what to think, but I thought it was a good show overall.
Yeah, I think it was a bit of both, and I think you can get something across and also take a shot at society as a whole at the same time, which, as you know, I love doing that. So I'm all for that. Looking at the two teams, if you had to guess today, which team has a better shot at getting back to the Super Bowl next year, Cincinnati or the LA Rams?
Well, I think just based off of the stuff I've seen on social media, I think Aaron Donald's going to stay put, and I think that could be huge for their decor. So I think with Donald and Stafford back, Cooper Kupp there, I think they still have a pretty good team. So I think that they might be better off with getting back to the Super Bowl. But to the contrary, after this year, I don't think you can really rule Joe Burrow out. I mean, you can rule out the offensive line, because if you're going to get sacked 9-10 times a game, it's tough. But I don't rule him out. It's just that O-line scares me.
Yeah, they got to figure that out. 70 sacks this year. He's going to be Andrew Luck. I'm really concerned about him, because like you said, he hurt his knee in the game. I thought he had really hurt it. Like the way he got up, I'm like, he tore his ACL again or something. His girlfriend looked like he was on his deathbed in the stands. But yeah, I would go with the Rams too. I mean, they have less cap room. You could say, well, Cincinnati's got all $50 million in cap room, and they'll get a better offensive line. Well, Cincinnati's a cheap organization. They always have been. I don't trust them to spend money until they spend money. And I look at, like you said, Stafford is very good. I don't think he's as good as people. You just won a Super Bowl, so he'll never be better than he is right now. But Aaron Donald will come back. The guy is a Mack truck. The guy, I mean,
yeah.
I don't know that third down play where I don't know if you remember this, the last drive case where Joe Mixon was hurt. So P. Ryan came in. He was a backup running back. And Aaron Donald basically stopped him with one arm. Like he had a guy shouldering him. He grabbed him with one arm, a 250-pound man. And he basically said, no, Gandalf, you shall not pass. Like you're not going. It was one of the more impressive things I've ever seen. And it just tells you how great and how strong of a man this guy is.
Yeah, like you look at how big these guys are, and I think of the last drive of the game for the D zone for Aaron Donald in the D line, and he was on his horse. He was getting to Joe Burrow. It didn't matter what he had to do; he was getting there, and that's just determination, and that's just a baller doing what ballers do last minute of the game. So I was devastated. I wanted to see the Bengals tie it with a kick and then go to overtime and then let it play out, just because the playoffs have been just absolutely unreal. So that's I was praying for overtime and the most electric game of the year, but happy with what we got.
Yeah, at least it was close. We've seen a lot of Super Bowls where you get there and you're like, this can be a great game. And then it's a blowout by halftime.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, I guess I'll get some sleep.
Last year.
Yeah. Mahomes was just running the whole half. We didn't see much of anything that was that entertaining. A couple stories before we get off football. Tom Brady. He's had to say he's retired about 80,000 times. It's driving me nuts. These other shows I listen to, and they can't shut up about it. But let's talk about it here. Is he retired? Is he coming back?
I'd say he's retired. Just let him ride off into the sunset. His wife's a billionaire, so it's not like he has to stay for cash. So just let him ride off into the sunset, spend time with her, kiss his kids on the lips, and send him on his merry way.
Yeah, it's a strange one.
Yeah, not a fan.
Yeah, I won't get into that, but yeah, I'm not. I don't know. I guess that's an American thing. But yeah, I agree. Could I see him coming back? Yes, but I'm not going to fixate about it every day, because I can only deal with what I have, and he's retired. So that means he's done. He's out of my brain. I focus on the free agent quarterbacks that I'm like, okay, are the Colts going to cut Carson Wentz? Well, maybe they will, but who's their quarterback? Like, I don't think Carson Wentz is a great quarterback, but no means I'll crush the guy every day of the week. But who's the replacement? Like that's why Tom Brady is talked about, really, Case, in my opinion. The big picture is because there are elite level quarterbacks. You mentioned Stafford. I think Joe Burrow is right there. Mahomes, Josh Allen. We know. But the mid pack, there are so many in that mid pack that you just say, this guy will never win a Super Bowl. And I'm sure it fuels a guy like Tom Brady to say, why the hell would I leave? I'm still one of the best. And if I can get by this team with Aaron Donald, a special player, I might be able to get an 8th ring.
Yeah, no, it's like that's what it is, right? If he wants to come back, I think it was Adam that was saying if he wants to come back in September or in August, come back to training camp and kind of go on his way, but he wants to be a father all summer, then I'm cool with that. But maybe downplay the punchline until then. Let him relax. You don't have to hear his name in the media every day. But yeah, like I think he's still at the top of it. Well, not the top of his game, but I think he's still pretty elite quarterback. He led all passing yards this year, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, I think he's definitely still got something in the tank, but I'd be happy with him retiring. He doesn't owe me anything. So unless he wants to come back to the Browns and take them to the Super Bowl, like mission, that's a mission right there.
I'd be easier in the AFC. I don't think it'd be hard to say, hey, Cleveland, you got to get rid of Baker to get Tom Brady. Okay, bye, Felicia.
Smell ya.
Yeah. See you in hell. Aaron Rodgers. Now there's two news fronts on Mr. Immunized. Do you think he goes back to Green Bay? And also, did you see that him and his fiance, I think this is probably the third one at this point that he's been engaged to, they broke up. So sorry to hear for old Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, news to me on the fiance. I didn't even know
him and Shailene Woodley, the actress, have called it quits. So
not ringing any bells.
No.
So no, I don't know if he's going to go back to the frozen tundra or not. I think they're kind of looking at going like towards a rebuild. So I know he said he doesn't really want to be a part of that. So yeah, I'm not too sure. I'm interested to see where he ends up.
Yeah. That'll be the talk all off season. Where does he end up? I mean, he dominated the last off season. So we're used to hearing his name as we move forward here. Let's pivot to hockey. And I was going to start with Edmonton, but I want to talk about a team that you really championed last year. You jumped on the bandwagon to the Stanley Cup final. You loved your grandfather's Montreal Canadiens. And
yep.
Boy, I don't know if I've seen a fall from grace quite like this. You go from the Stanley Cup final to your worst in Arizona. And that 8 wins. I mean, you hire a Pop Warner head coach who was coaching his kids, which I'm sure you heard me on the show. I was not a big fan of that hire or that decision, but what do you make of Montreal? Some of the decision making throughout all this has just been really questionable to me.
Yeah, it's pretty ugly in Montreal right now. I've really kind of tuned away from anything any kind of games. Like I think the last game I watched was the night that the Zegras happened.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for me, that was it was so cool to watch because Zegras, I think, is electric in the league, but it was kind of like the writings on the wall where Montreal doesn't really care anymore. They're going to be going for the draft picks. Like you said, if you're going to be on the losing side of the games, you might as well have the best chance at a draft pick. And I know the pool is pretty slim this year, but Shane Wright's not a bad add to the franchise. I mean, he could be a good middle piece, but it's pretty thin right now. And I feel like with the trade deadline looming, I think there's going to be a couple of other players on the way out. So I'm interested to see what the rest of the year is going to look like.
Do you think they'll trade Jeff Petry before the trade deadline?
I'm not too sure about Petry, but I'm hearing that Chariot's looking to be on the way out. So I think Chariot's a good D. I thought he was pretty pivotal in their run last year. I think he's a good kind of shutdown guy, but obviously not this year if he's getting hosed in Montreal. So
yeah, I'd want him if I was a team that I thought could win a cup. He'd be top of the list for me. I've been talking about the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think he'd be a really good fit there. But who's untouchable in Montreal? Other than Suzuki, is there anybody that you say I will not trade this player?
Like for me, I kind of like. Well, I'm not going to say I kind of like him. I like him a lot, but it's Romanov. I think
Yeah.
he's a good piece, but you just have to develop him. You have to get him with the right kind of right pair, and I think he has so much room to grow. I think as a player, like he can be offensive, he can be a good two-way defenseman. I think so. It's just a matter of him getting a little more mature, I think.
Yeah, I wouldn't trade him either. And Caulfield I probably wouldn't trade him, but I don't think he's untouchable. I don't think he's been enough that you're like, okay, I can't trade Cole Caulfield if the right deal comes up. I mean, you want to keep him because you think he's got, more to
Upside.
show, more potential, but his NHL career so far has been pretty lackluster. So, I don't think he's by any means an untouchable piece. How about Carey Price? I mean, he hasn't played all season. Montreal, I assume they're going to tear it to the ground. So that would include, Carey Price leaving, but I don't see this move as a deadline move, but he's got a full no move, so he can decide where he goes. But, it's going to be very tough for Montreal to tell their fans we're trading away one of the best players in franchise history. And now we got to go get a goalie that we don't have. I mean, that's a tough pill to swallow for a fan base. If you're just like, hey, yeah, we're giving away goaltending, which is our biggest strength. And now we need to go find another, Carey Price, if you will.
Yeah, no, I don't see Price being moved by the deadline either. I think it's kind of a over the summer type deal or at the draft maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if with the no move clause, I know you really kind of handcuffed as an organization on where you can send them or what you can get in return. But like you see guys like Taylor Hall that want to move and they get their choice. They want to go here. The Claude Giroux scenario where he wants to go to Colorado, is it going to happen? I don't know. But I think if Price wants out and wants to go to a certain spot to contend for another cup, he's getting to the back half of his career. I think he's done enough for the city of Montreal to deserve that right to walk. But I mean, that's also his decision. But yeah, I think he deserves another chance to go for a cup. I mean, despite leaving Montreal, it's ugly there, and you don't want to see him kind of rotten the rest of his career away. So
Yeah, I agree. And you want to talk about a team that could use Carey Price as Colorado. I think Montreal trading Price, I mean, it's going to be a tough deal. I mentioned a tough sell, but you're likely going to have to eat half of it, which is the max that you can eat under the salary cap. He still makes 10.5. So that, that's $6 million that you're just staring at, So, that's going to be tough for a team like Colorado. Like I said, I think that would want him. They got Rantanen, you got, they're going to have to re-sign McKinnon. You have Cale Makar, who's making $9 million. That's a lot to fit in. But, I think they will pursue it. I think the Edmonton Oilers would likely pursue it in the offseason. Again, they have to make that work. But let's talk about Edmonton for a second, and we'll tie Price in at the end. New coach, they fired Dave Tippett, and they've been on a hot streak since. And boy, yeah, Edmonton's, all their faults are gone now. They're riding high. Sportsnet just put them in the playoffs now. It's like the Leafs in 13 out for Sportsnet right now. But I still don't trust this team, Casey. I don't. I love their two cornerstone pieces, but McDavid hasn't been playing that well this season. Again, 40-year-old Mike Smith. I love his heart. I mean, who doesn't like Mike Smith? But he's 40 bleeping years old. Koskinen, thanks Peter Chiarelli. And their depth has just been terrible. If you're the GM, you're Ken Holland, are you aggressive at this trade deadline? Or are you keeping your assets because you just don't think this team's good enough to win a Stanley Cup?
well, I think that Edmonton's like they're a bubble team right now. I think like they're on the verge of being like a good contender. They're just a few pieces away.
Mm-hmm.
myself as a GM, like I like Chariot from Montreal. I kind of look at him maybe adding to this Edmonton
Interesting.
lineup.
Yeah.
He's not a bad piece, right? So I look at him for a goaltending opportunity. Maybe I look at giving Fleury an opportunity to go for a run in the playoffs with McDavid. But then again, you have to have a solid defenseman up front. And another guy I had possibly going to the Oilers as a goaltender is maybe Varlamov from the Islanders. I mean,
Right.
pretty lackluster year down there in the island. I think I have them as one of my biggest frauds of the year. But yeah, I think they're a few pieces away from being a good contender. I mean, Kane was a good piece. I think he's been pretty solid since he's came into the lineup. So his gritty game is good for the playoffs, I think. But yeah, Connor's kind of got to pick it back up and get back into his regular pace if they want to be successful. He's gonna have to will them in to the playoffs.
Yeah, I think Fleury is an obvious connection. But like you said, I love Nurse. I hear people criticize that contract. I sure he could make 8. I mean, but that's the going rate, and I think he's a number 1 defenseman. I don't even think it's a debate. I heard different shows say, well, Morgan Riley got 7.5. Well, Morgan Riley's not as good as Darnell Nurse. Sorry. It's really not that close either. And you can't. It's such a tough position as a general manager because you have McDavid and Draisaitl, and normally in hockey culture, as you know, Case, it's, well, we're not going to complain about our current situation. We're not the NBA where James Harden can play for 3 different teams in a year, and he's all, you can play for 3 different franchises and get to pick where you go despite being out of shape and despite not being a good team player. But I look at McDavid this year. He's irritable. He seems pissed off. He's not happy. Players are different than they were 20 years ago. If you don't be aggressive, I think there's a legitimate chance McDavid walks in and says, you know what, Ken, I'm done with this. Like, I want to win Stanley Cups. I don't want to be known as the greatest player to never win one or not even get close. So I think there's an added element of pressure to say, add to this roster or I might not be here next year.
Yeah, no, I get that vibe from McDavid as well. Like just some of the pressers that I've seen, he looks just miserable, right? Just hates hockey, especially when they're on their slump. So yeah, I think it's pretty important that the Oilers are aggressive this trade deadline. Like it's you got to be smart too, though, when it comes to the moves that you're going to be making. Like, you don't want to handcuff yourself in the future too much. Like, you obviously want to go to the Stanley Cup Finals, look at Tampa Bay, but they continuously do it year after year. Like, they're one of the best teams in the NHL, and they're on verge of possibly three-peating. So I think, like, you kind of got to look at something like that and try and base, like, yeah, they have Kucherov, but we have McDavid, we have Stamkos, Draisaitl. You can go down the lineup, but it's just the depth pieces, I think, that make a big difference for Tampa over Edmonton. And I think that's what they're kind of missing. So,
yeah, and I would probably add Fleury if I could. I'd still be worried because I don't think this. Like, I look at Edmonton case, I don't think they beat Calgary in a 7-game series, and I don't really think there's an ad at the deadline, and that includes Marc-Andre Fleury, that I look at and say, kid, they will beat Calgary in a 7-game series. I like Markstrom more than I like Fleury. Fleury will be a Hall of Famer, but Markstrom's a better goaltender than Fleury is right now. I'm impressed with Calgary. I kill Brad Treliving more than anybody, but that team is going to be extremely difficult to play against. And I look at the way Edmonton's built. I think that's a matchup nightmare for them because, the postseason game of the NHL flips more than any other sport. There's less ice, there's less availability, and we've seen last year McDavid and Draisaitl weren't very good, and they're playing a Winnipeg team that is has way much girth, way less size and truculence than the Calgary Flames do right now.
Yeah, I think the Flames are just absolutely red hot right now. Like they've been kind of riding that wave for like the last couple of weeks. So I've been looking at the standings every day, and they're kind of just shooting up and shooting up. Like at one point they were just above Edmonton, and now they're first in the division over Vegas. So I mean, they're obviously showing that they're a tough team. I think Toffoli's a good addition. I think obviously he's going to be good for the playoff experience, and he's got 2 cups and all that good stuff, right? So he's a good piece. Markstrom is elite. I think if it comes down to Edmonton and Calgary in the playoffs, I don't think Edmonton's going to come close in that 7-game series. Just Markstrom, he can control the outcome of a game just by stopping 50 shots a night or 20 shots. What doesn't matter what it is, but I'm interested to see what the Pacific Division is going to look like when it comes down to it.
Yeah, I mean, because Edmonton, the reason they're still in it is because, Anaheim and LA really overachieved, at this point. I don't think either team is that great. Obviously, they both have a lot of young talent, which you got to love to see. You mentioned Trevor Zegras. You go through both teams and you look like, oh, I'm stoked about this guy. This guy's going to be really fun to watch. But Edmonton should be better than these teams. Edmonton should be better than San Jose. You go down the line of this division, there isn't that many great teams. And that might be the reason they make it in. But it's that balance of, okay, we made the playoffs, but if you lose in the first round again, you're just one of those middle pack teams. And that's almost as bad as finishing. I think it's worse than finishing dead last, because at least you get the first pick. I always say, if you don't win the cup, you're just as big a loser as the team that finishes last. And that pisses off a lot of people and close to my household, Casey, because they get sensitive about it. But it's 100%. I think it's 100% the truth, because if you lose in the finals, that's a way tougher pill to swallow than finishing dead last and getting Shane Wright or whomever.
Yeah, no doubt, for sure. Like if you lose in the finals, I mean, you're going to be depressed all summer. You're not going to want to train, this and that. I could just see, I've been there, a losing team, whatever. So I know what it's like going into summer. You're looking, thank God there's a draft and, whatever. But
it was easier when you drank.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure. Tougher on you now.
Yeah, it would be. I don't know if I'd be. Well, I could golf too still. So.
Right. Yeah. A couple of Pepsis and in the back 9.
Yeah.
You mentioned Chariot. I like the idea of that. But another thing about Edmonton, this goes back to Ken Holland, is they have no cap room, and this is 100% a contract that is just baffling to me. And he's a good player. Don't get me wrong. This guy's a good player, but why did Ryan Nugent-Hopkins need an 8-year extension? Why 8 years? They had him for 8 years. They didn't win nothing with him there. Again, he's a very good player. This is not about him putting him down, but it's a big cap number. It's a lot of years, and they're so cash strapped. It's very difficult to make any sort of move. Getting Fleury to come to Edmonton will be tough unless Chicago is willing to eat a lot of his salary.
Yeah, like that's what I mean. Like a lot of the guys in Edmonton are making pretty steep salaries, like McDavid, Draisaitl. They're both right up there. So, and then it just kind of, Darnell Nurse signed a good ticket. And Nugent Hopkins, he's been a journeyman over there. He's been faithful to the Edmonton Nation. Honestly, I feel bad that he's going to be wrapped up there for another 8 years if things don't turn around. But I think he'd be a not bad piece for someone to go after if Edmonton's kind of on the sell side. But I think that maybe offensive piece that Edmonton could maybe add at the deadline is Kubalik from Chicago. He's not a bad little player. He's pretty crafty, but I think that the Oilers are going to have to make a pretty significant moves at the deadline.
Yeah, is Nugent Hopkins Toronto's Morgan Riley?
I would have to say it's got to be something close, like Golden Child type thing. I don't know.
Like just, they've been there forever, and you feel for them because they both went through a lot of losing. but they get rewarded with big tickets. I never made that correlation before, but I just kind of came to my mind.
Yeah, I feel bad more so for Nugent Hopkins more than Riley,
Right.
but that's just because Nugent Hopkins had to experience the Yakupov era and everything that
Or is
went
it
on in
because you hate
Edmonton.
Toronto?
That too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think it's because you feel it's in your heart. You feel so bad for yeah, you feel so bad for Morgan Riley. Um, we're going through trade pieces. What about Claude Giroux? We've heard Colorado, which is interesting. I've made the point, I think a defenseman would be a more important need for Colorado. I mean, I like their up front. They got great defense, Makar, Byram, but it's small to me, Case. I don't like. I hate having defensemen that are all the same. I like
Yeah.
diversity in life. People I talk to, it's nice.
Mhm.
I If you can get both, do it. I think it's gonna be extremely difficult, but I would rather add a defenseman if I'm Colorado, because having a great defense and having good goaltending is more important than having great forwards. That's just my opinion on how to win a cup. They certainly can, but I think you mentioned a Chariot, he'd be right there. Maybe even a Chikrin. Chikrin's different than a Klingberg. I think Klingberg is too close to Makar. Like, you can only have so many puck moving defensemen that don't play that well defensively. I think Chikrin, if you look at his plus minus, you'd hate the guy, but I do think he's got term, and he'd be a good ad for this team as well. That'd be a blockbuster trade.
Yeah, no, I'm interested to see if Giroux is going to end up in Colorado. I like you. I think defense and goaltending is what gets you through the playoffs and gets you over the hump. But that's just me. And I've seen that Giroux kind of also rumored to go maybe to Minnesota or St. Louis.
Right.
So I mean that's also interesting. But Chikrin would be a good ad, especially his size with Colorado. I think would be huge. So.
I think Minnesota would be a great landing spot for Giroux, because I think they do that's a team that I think needs another forward.
Yeah.
I watched them. I don't know if you watched any of that game last night with Winnipeg, but I really like Minnesota's team. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that Colorado is just going to make it to the Stanley Cup final out west. I think Minnesota's going to have something to say about it. They're a tough group of boys. Like that Eriksson, Greenway, Foligno line is like, I don't know. They're just I love that line. I like their back end. I do think they need another top six forward. And, you got Zuccarello, Giroux. I mean, Zuccarello is having a fantastic season. And I think Giroux could play center, or he could play the wing. I think that's something that he's not as fast as he used to be, but he could still take draws and play the wing on a team that he's traded to.
Yeah. And like, I think Giroux would fit in not bad with the Wild. I think he's more up their alley kind of with the game.
Right.
I don't know if you watched, I don't know if you've seen it last night, but when Zuccarello scored his goal last night,
Mm-hmm.
I know you're an old hockey connoisseur, and for me, it kind of brought back like vibes from Detroit when they had all the Russians on the ice. The way
Yeah.
that they were moving the puck around, like one-touch passes and zigzagging, and it was pretty awesome to see. I thought it was pretty nice, but that game was good last night. I thought Winnipeg, for me, was a little bit better than I was expecting. Scheifele had a really good game, hat trick, so not a big deal. But yeah, I think that those two teams are good, even with Winnipeg kind of lower in the central standings. I think they're still a good team, but I'm interested to see what Minnesota and Vegas are going to have to say about Colorado trying to go to the finals.
Yeah. Winnipeg's so perplexing, because I think they should be better than what they are. And it frustrates me to see them. I mean, they are in a tough division. I will say that, Colorado, we talk about Colorado all day, a 19-game point streak. Minnesota, St. Louis is a good team. They're quiet, but they're a good team. Nashville, I have less confidence in, but Dallas isn't bad. And we look at Winnipeg, they're currently, 6 points out of a playoff spot. Like, that's a long ways to go. Like, that they got to truck along here. And I worry about them because they've played 47 games. That's a lot. But maybe Wheeler has one last kick in the can in him. He looks a little long in the tooth right now. Had a good game last night. But, I think they're going to need their big boys to play hard down the stretch for this team to make the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think that's big too with Scheifele having a good game last night. Might get the boys going, and might get Wheeler on the go again too. Guy I thought had a good game last night too was Perfetti from the Jets. I thought he looked not bad. From what I can remember at the World Juniors, I remember we talked about him, how he was kind of a perimeter player and wasn't really too engaged in the play. Last night I seen him in the corners a couple times digging for pucks and hard on the puck. So, I think it's good, and if he can kind of find a little bit success, I know he had, I think, 2 assists last night. So if he can keep it rolling, then you never know, the Jets might find a way to sneak in.
Yeah, I think they're better than, LA and, some of those specific teams that they could be chasing. And, Dallas is right in there too, but I kind of believe Dallas is going to sell off some assets here. I think you look at Pavelski, he's a guy that he's a UFA at the end of the year. I think teams are going to want I'd want Joe Pavelski. I'll tell you that, because I think he's having a great season. Obviously, you wouldn't want to move him because he's playing with Jason Robertson, who's I love him as a player as well. I think he back-to-back really good seasons. All we hear was Nick Robertson. Actually, Jason was the better player. He just plays in Dallas. But Pavelski, Giroux, some of these veteran forwards that have a lot of playoff experience, they're going to be highly coveted. And it'd be interesting to see what Dallas does, because it's about almost a month to the trade deadline. But Pavelski is a guy that would be very high on my wish list. And if I'm Minnesota, I'd take Pavelski over a Giroux. Any team, I'd prefer Pavelski over a Giroux at this point anyway.
Yeah. My East Coast, West Coast teams for Pavelski would be Minnesota for the West Coast, and then I'd like to see him go to Carolina in the East. That
interesting.
I think I've been pretty steady at looking at Carolina, and I just like the way that they're playing this year. Like, I think that they're one of the better teams in the Metro. I know Pittsburgh's ahead of them, I'm pretty sure. But just the way that they play, I find they're a shutdown team. They're not fancy, but they get it done. And I think Pavelski would be a big add to their power play, especially in front of the net. So that's what I think. And 2 more trades I think that with the trade deadline coming is Cal Yarncroke from Seattle. I'm thinking with Nashville kind of being on that bubble, I think that they might call him back for some, bring him back in. He used to play there, so I think that's not a bad place. And then Giordano, I think there's been kind of rumors of him going back to the Flames, but I don't really think that they need him. But out east, wouldn't be a bad place to send him in down to the Panthers, or maybe even a team like the Rangers.
Yeah, the rain you talked about, your East teams with Pavelski possibly to Carolina. I think that would work. Are they going to be too cheap to bring him in? That's my big worry again. With they're such a good team, that great coaching for the limited resources they're given. Their GM and coach do wonders with that team. But what about the Rangers with little Joe Pavelski? I still think they need a top 6 forward. I think they're a really, really good team, but like you, Carolina is the best team in the Metro to me. If Pittsburgh can be ahead of them, I don't care. They're not going to be ahead of them at the end of the year. They'll flame out like they do every year since winning the cup. They haven't won a playoff round since they won their last cup. But I think if I'm the Rangers, I think I could get to a Stanley Cup final. Why not? I mean, they have limited experience, but sure, Tampa and Florida are great. Toronto is no small feat. But you look at your own division, we could get to a conference final, and the only team we really fear, and I think this is true feeling, is Carolina. We don't fear Washington. We don't fear Pittsburgh. if we could win the division, we're in a good spot to make a run. And, I think they need another top 6 forward to really put themselves in that conversation and get there by the end of the season.
Yeah, no, that's a good thought. Like Pavelski to the Rangers, that's why I feel like the Rangers and the Hurricanes kind of have a similar makeup. That's just kind of what I feel. I watched the Rangers game against the Bruins the other night.
Wasn't that a great game?
It was in the background. I had it more in the background. I didn't I wasn't too into the shootout.
No, I turned that off.
Yeah, I watched the winner, but I mean, it was a good game, but it's just for me it's the fucking announcers, man. I can't fucking do it.
You know what to do. Casey, mute.
That's what I mean. I was watching. It was more so in the background for me because I was more so watching the Masters recap from last year and watching Hideki just hit bombs. So that's more so what I was watching. But
well, respect there. Watching old reruns, you sound like me back in 06. No, I love to hear that. I mean, that's good homework. But no, I watched that game as well. I thought it was a great game, back and forth.
Like that they were running the goalie. Love that.
Yeah, I just look at that. They're going to be tough. Like I think they're a tough team. Lindgren on the back end, I like a lot. He plays with obviously Adam Fox, who's a superstar, but Lindgren is like a Mark Mathot, but he's better than Mark Mathot. He's tough. He's not a big man, but he's a tough son of a bitch. He's hard to move. And I just look at this team, Panarin, you got to love him, and Zibanejad, their core pieces. Yeah. But if they could get another top 6 forward to score big goals in big games, I think they really become a legitimate threat.
Yeah, and like you said, Joe Pavelski, like he without a doubt, if he moves at the deadline, is going to be to an American team that's in the run. And like to me, just I think Carolina, but like New York is obviously a great spot too. They're both kind of right there in the run, so I'd be happy to see him go to either one and go on a nice run. But yeah, I'm on Carolina's bandwagon heading into the playoffs. Like to see them go on a nice run, especially with Ethan Bear.
Yeah. One last player before we talk about our division, best team in the division, and kind of teams that have disappointed us this year. If you're the Canucks, do you trade JT Miller?
It's tough. He's having not bad year. He's having pretty solid year, but depends on what the piece is. I know there's going to be people on the bubble that are hopeful of getting in that are going to be coming looking. So it just depends on what the offer is, I think. But I'm not opposed to moving him.
Yeah, he's I like him a lot as a player. Yeah. But if the takers are giving a lot, like I don't think Vancouver's going to make the playoffs personally. And he's got 46 points, in 40, he's a point per game player. That's a nice season. He makes $5.25 million. He's got 1 year left. So that's a tough ticket to take on this late in the season. But, if I'm a team and I say, I feel like, again, would New York explore getting him back? It was a good trade when they did, I think Vancouver got good value because he's been very good since being there. But, if you trade JT Miller, he's got a year left on his contract out east. Vancouver doesn't have to worry about him. Maybe you can get a Krasov back who hasn't been playing. He's a youngster who was a first-round pick, has been playing in the KHL all year. So you get a player's rights. You get definitely a first-round pick in return. So I think it's something to explore. And I think if you're a playoff team again, he's a guy you get for 2 years. It's like the Blake Coleman trade, but I think JT Miller is a better player. So to get 2 cracks with the same player would interest me a lot if I'm a team looking at JT Miller's services.
Yeah, he wouldn't be a bad pickup for the Rangers. I don't think he point per game player, so you know what he's going to bring. It's just a matter of getting him there. I also think maybe Boston.
Yeah.
maybe pick him up, trying to spice up that forward line, add him in there for extra offense.
Yeah, they could certainly use him there because
Yeah.
the other night you watch, and obviously Bergeron didn't play, Marchand suspended for some reason. You look at that team, and you're like, okay, they're lacking. Charlie Coyle, like they have too many guys that are inconsistent. Where you're a point per game player, you're playing pretty damn well night in, night out.
Yeah. And I thought for some of the forwards the other night in the Bruins game, they just seemed like pretty flat. It just I don't know if it was just the way that the game, like the spurts of the game, but it just seemed like they kind of were missing momentum or just couldn't get the bounces. But I think New York kind of controlled the game pretty well the other night. But I wouldn't mind seeing Miller move to a nice contender, and New York would be a good spot for him. So.
You get some breaking news here on the podcast. Do you remember the baseball player Tyler Skaggs that passed away, really out of the blue? He used to pitch for the Angels.
Yeah.
So the jury found ex-Angels employee K guilty of causing death in Skaggs' trial. So he's going to be going to jail. So basically, to give everybody some background info, Tyler Skaggs died basically because he had an opioid overdose. He was addicted to opioids. He was only 28 years old when he passed away. And Eric K, a former employee, was distributing fentanyl to Tyler Skaggs and other players illegally. And Tyler Skaggs died. So he's 27 when he was found dead. And now he's going to be going to jail. And obviously that's off topic. Baseball doesn't look like it's going to be playing anytime soon. But this was I read the other day that the Dark Knight Matt Harvey admitted to giving Tyler Skaggs fentanyl and different medications, which he won't be in trouble for that because that's just player to player kind of thing that happens all the time. But justice was served here. This guy, 27, passes away, obviously. I'm just happy to see that justice was served and that the right thing happened here.
Yeah, no doubt. Obviously sad to hear, but it's good to see that the justice system prevails for once.
Yeah. Getting back to topic at hand, who are the best 4 teams? Each division, if you had to rate the divisions, who are the best 4 teams that you have on your docket case?
Well, Colorado, Tampa, Carolina, and for the Pacific, it's tough because I had Vegas down, but Calgary's been so hot right now. It's tough to say, but I'm going to stick with Vegas.
Yeah, Vegas is going to be interesting because obviously Jack Eichel returned last night. They ended up getting shut out, but he hasn't played in a long time. I'm interested to see how he clicks. Mark Stone is going to be injured, so that chemistry will have to wait a while.
Yeah.
And Robin Leonard's hurt as well, so I'm a little worried. If they weren't in that division, I'd really be worried about Vegas. But I have Colorado and I have Carolina. No big surprise there. Me and you both love our awesome Hurricanes. Yeah, in the Atlantic, I have the Florida Panthers, and I got to stick with them. They played Carolina last night. Great hockey game. Loved every second of it. Sasha Barkov, unbelievable goal. I mean that guy, his size, his ability, he's unbelievable. Aaron Ekblad continues to. He's rejuvenated his career. I'm so happy for him. I love seeing him play well. I think they got a great team. And I'm going to, because I'm so hard on this team and especially on the GM, I have to give him credit for playing well. I'm going to say Calgary. And Brad Treliving should have been fired. I will not get off that opinion. But he's got more lies than Garfield. But they're playing great hockey. I think they're going to be tough to play against in the playoffs. My boy, Matthew Tkachuk, is just looking like a flat-out stud out there. Him, Lindholm, and Goodrow are one of the best lines in the NHL. And they have a stud in net. So it's going to be tough to beat them.
Yeah, Johnny Hockey kind of caught fire too, eh? Third or fourth in the league in points. So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely not a bad pick with the Flames. I'm hoping that Eichel can kind of get it going. I feel for him. First game back into the league last night, not playing in probably over a calendar year. So it is tough, and it is going to take him a little while to get back to game shape and get everything going. But I'm faithful that he'll still have a good year there. So yeah,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say he played 17 minutes, which was a good sign. I mean, that's not a whole lot of minutes, but for your first game and like you said, a very long time, I'll take 17 minutes.
Yeah, no, that's I was expecting him to kind of play around that 15 to 20-ish minutes. I didn't think they were going to just overexert him his first night, but it's definitely a good spot for him to kind of just ease his way back into the lineup.
Took two penalties, which I thought would excite you.
Oh yeah,
You know.
you got the score sheet. He was there.
Yeah. Where's I gotta ask you, we're on the podcast. We always gotta talk about this team, not as much as the other shows, just a quick ask. Where's Toronto in your hierarchy in the East? So if you had to rate your Eastern Conference, say your best four teams in the Eastern Conference, is Toronto a part of that group?
Yeah, I'd say they're 4. I'd give them 4th.
So you got Carolina 1, Tampa 2.
Yeah, Carolina 1, Tampa 2, Florida 3, obviously, because there's no way that Toronto beats either one of those 3 teams. But that's the story for another day.
Yeah. I would probably agree with you. I'd have Florida higher, obviously. But to me, like, I love Florida, but as a team, but I look at Tampa is still, when it comes to the playoff hierarchy, they're still 1 to me until somebody beats them, because Florida hasn't won anything in the playoffs. Neither has Toronto. You could argue the Rangers haven't won anything. Carolina has a little bit more credence. They went to the conference final a few years ago. They've been there year in, year out. They've won playoff rounds, not just show up. But you look at the East, there's a lot of unproven teams. So for Tampa, you just look at it and you're like, well, the Islanders aren't going to make the playoffs. They're usually our biggest competition. So if they can get there healthy, I still worry about them, because they got the most clutch player in Braden Point, the best goalie in the world, Kucherov. Stamkos is playing better than maybe he ever has. I mean,
55 points.
That's not an easy out there.
No, he's I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen him play like up to this standard, and it's been a while since he's had a full year.
Yeah.
So to see him have 55 points at the 50-ish, 45, 50 game mark that's pretty good. So he's definitely leading the charge there. He's taken Braden Point and Cooch and all those guys under his wing. So I think all that's good stuff, and I'm all for the big rig going for 4 and the 3-peat in Tampa. I'm all for it. I can just imagine the presser with Kucherov after, and maybe the limit is limit the Bud Lights before his presser. But
I hope not.
Yeah, I'm all for the content. I'm all for it.
Yeah. Who's the most disappointing team in the NHL this year for you?
Well, I'm gonna let my Canadiens slide. I'm not gonna shame them anymore. They've taken it hard enough already. But for a team that I thought could be a contender or is a good team in the league, and year in year out they're always good, is the New York Islanders.
Yeah.
For me this year, they're really underperforming, and I feel bad for guys like Barzal that have the insane amount of skill to do whatever they want. They can control the game offensively, but he just has to stay with the systems, and he has to stick in that regime, I guess. So it's tough.
Yeah, New York is back-to-back conference finals, and they're losing to Buffalo, all the time now. So that's a tough pill to swallow. I'm also going to throw in Philadelphia. I have very little faith in Philadelphia, but come on. I mean, Like the other night, I'm watching some of that game because Crosby scored his 500th goal. Congratulations to Sid the Kid.
Yeah.
But you're up 4-2 going into the third period, and you choke it, you gag it away. And they don't get good goaltending. Giroux's having a good year. You wouldn't know it. The team's pathetic. And you're in the Metro. Columbus is 8 points clear of you. Columbus. I mean, you're tied with New Jersey, my Devils. I mean, come on. Like it's just a sad state of affairs in Philly. And before we know it, Danny Briere will be the GM of that team with, who knows, maybe Vinny LeCavalier will be the head coach.
Yeah, no, I have Philly down as they suck, to say the least. That's my note beside them. I had them down as one of the biggest frauds in the NHL as well. So that's to sum it up, they suck, and it's not getting any better. So
yeah, no, a lot of NHL stories. We'll podcast again as we get closer to the deadline and the playoffs and everything. But I wanted to talk to you today as well about golf. Obviously, it's in full swing. So far this year, the only players that have won tournaments on the PGA Tour are guys that have never won tournaments. Hudson Swafford, Tom Hoagie, Scotty Scheffler. I like seeing the new blood get into things here. But my main question is, what did you make of the scene at 16 at the Waste Management this past weekend with, you go through it all, 2 hole-in-ones, which were crazy, the beer cans going everywhere, Harry Higgs gearing down. It was a hell of a weekend, and it was, what'd you make of the scene on 16?
you know what? I think it's awesome. I think I wasn't watching it live, but I was checking Instagram and I seen I think it was Sam Ryder's hole-in-one, I think.
Yeah, on Saturday.
Yeah, and that was nuts to see the beer cans flying, and I think it's awesome. And then you see all the people on social media go like, "Oh, come on, where's the respect in the game?" and all this stuff. And like, come on, like it's you know what it's like down there in Phoenix. It's an absolute party. So I think it was awesome, and to see one later on was even better. And then Harry Higgs and Joel Dahm. Yeah, that was awesome. Like that's just hilarious. And if that's kind of a sneak peek at what we're gonna get with the Netflix series
right
on the horizon, then I'm sold. Like I said with the NFL, I'm all in. So I loved it. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, I thought it was awesome too. People that are writing that, grow up. Like there's every other weekend, golf is this. The other complaint was golf's this stuffy sport, and okay, no way. Well, you finally have a little, like, this is not gonna be every weekend. 16 at the Waste Management is very different from 16 at Augusta National. We know that. Even this weekend at Riviera, which is a money course, one of the nicest courses in the world. But like, Case, if I know for me and you, if we're planning a golf trip, boys trip, I'd rather go to the Waste Management than Augusta. I'll tell you that, because guess what? Weather, February, Arizona, money. And how about that course is gorgeous. I mean, I loved watching it because it was great on TV. I couldn't imagine being there next year, Super Bowl in Arizona, the same weekend, Waste Management. How could you get a better setup than that?
Yeah, you're definitely running on the red eye down there for sure next year if you happen to get a ticket to both.
Yeah.
I know that that environment down there at the Phoenix Open, the Waste Management, is just unreal. I think the lines start at 3 a.m. for the 6:30 Open, so that they can run to the grandstands and stuff. Like, that's insane. I'd be sleeping in line, but that's just to say the least. It'd be absolutely insane weekend down there next year with the Super Bowl and the Waste Management. But that'd be like a all timer. You'd have to have a GoPro on the whole time just to get everything.
Yeah, I love that tournament. It's nice just to see different stuff. It's like the US Open where they shoot over par. It's like a 3 under par winner. You need that sometimes. You can't just be dash 25 every week, because that gets boring as well.
Yeah.
Like I said, they're in Riviera this weekend, the Genesis Tigers tournament. He had his presser yesterday. But we talked before, but kind of give the listeners your take on who you like this weekend and who you pick to win the whole tournament.
Well, I was looking at the lineup and the list of players that are in the hunt, or not in the hunt, but in the tournament. And my pick before the tournament was Cam Smith, Titleist guy. I kind of think that he's kind of playing really well right now. Another guy that I don't mind watching is Patrick Cantley. 20, I was reading 26 of his last 28 rounds have been sub 70.
Wow.
So two rounds, I think one at Pebble and one the week before Pebble, where he shot a 72 and a 71. So I mean, his game is best it's ever been. And Morikawa, you can't count him out at a place like Riviera where precision is needed. So it'll be interesting to see how it ends up after the cut line and see what it looks like in the weekend.
Yeah, as of right now, Scotty Scheffler, who won last weekend, in the lead. So back-to-back good starts to tournaments. He's 5 under. Spieth 5 under. Kokrak, Morikawa, Cam Smith, your boy JT, 4 under. So yeah, you have some good players at the top. Guys, John Rahm, 2 under for the day. Schauffele, 2 under. Thigala, who's kind of this rising star, 2 under. So it's a great field. Vic Hovland's in the field. He's on the course right now. Brooksy, you got some great guys. Matsuyama, your guy, Mr. Burns, Sam Burns. So it should be a great tournament. This stretch of golf is great. These next couple of weeks with the football, no football, it makes the pain a little easier when you have some great courses and some great fields for guys to play in.
Yeah, no, it definitely makes it a little bit easier, and that's definitely what I'm going to try and consume my weekends with now that golf is or football's done. I'm going to try and get into the simulators more. I'm going to try and get on the TV, just get everything going with golf, and just annoy the living hell out of my girlfriend. Ask her if the swing looks good. Ask her, anything
Do you
about
like
golf.
watching golf?
Oh, she probably hate it, but she'll sit there and do it. It's like anything. She'll sit there and suffer through the pain and torture of the television. She doesn't mind watching UFC or NFL, hockey. It doesn't matter. She'll sit there and
They
ride
got
the
a good
wave.
woman
Yeah,
because
she's a trooper.
Yeah. No, good to hear there, because that's my big fear for you. So you'll be able to consume it all, because me, I control the clicker. So
Yeah.
Even if I didn't control the clicker, we'd be watching it, Case. You know me. She be going before the TV, my friend. But I always love chatting with you. I appreciate you making the time, man. And maybe we'll do it again soon in maybe a different location.
Yeah, no, it sounds good. Stay tuned for information coming February 28th on information from To The Point. Stay tuned.
Good tease. Thanks, Case, for joining me today. Thanks, everybody, for listening, subscribing, all the good stuff. Have a great night. And as always, this has been To The Point.